What is up, y'all? So before I officially begin this video, there's 3 things I want to talk about, 3 little updates that have been happening that I want to go over before I get on to the main topic. Also, side note, sorry it's a little messy in the background. I'm working on like 3 fursuits right now, so I'm like throwing for everywhere and whatever. So the first thing I want to talk about is you've probably noticed that there hasn't been a video in a while. Well, that's because after I made my last video, I immediately hit the pre-MFF rush when it comes to getting things done, then MFF, and then moving back here. As you can see, I'm not in my normal location. I'm back in my PA location for the holidays, so I'll be making videos here for a month. But because of all that, I didn't have time to really make a video between the last one and, now. So that's where I've been. I haven't been, like, avoiding anything. I haven't been, like, dead for ideas or anything. I just haven't had time. And like I said, I don't do these videos professionally. They're just for fun, so I kind of just make them when I can. Second, MFF itself. So I'm sure you all know that when I go to cons, I normally do vlogs. Well, I brought my camera to MFF, I did. But after going over some of the footage when I got back, I realized I'm missing a lot of it. I'm not exactly sure why this happened. My camera passed through the hands of a few people over the weekend, so it's possible that when they were handling it, some buttons got pressed, something got erased. I mean, it happens. It's human error. But because of that, I kind of don't have sufficient footage for some of the days, and because of that, there's no reason to put a vlog together if you don't, have stuff to show. So I'm trying to figure out right now what I want to do with that, if I'm going to put together like one long vlog of what I do have, or if I'm going to make like a quick music video, or if I'm not going to post anything, I don't know. So yeah, if you see like, a non-standard vlog from MFF, that's why. If you don't see anything, honestly, you're not missing anything. MFF itself was a little off this year for me and the people I went with. One of the big reasons being because we were not in the main hotel this year, and that kind of caused some problems with actually going and getting and enjoying the con. But that is the news on MFF and the vlogs and what I did there, so it's what it is. And thirdly, I'm sure you'll notice I'm not in my Fox. Back to why MFF wasn't the greatest con. I actually tried to bring my Fox to MFF, but because of some problems, mainly USPS not being able to do their job, he got lost in transit on the way to the con. So obviously I didn't have him at the con, I wasn't able to wear him at the con, which made me really sad. Don't worry, I know where he is now. He was going to a friend's house who was supposed to bring him over to the con, but I later learned that he arrived to that friend's house Saturday of MFF, so obviously I wasn't gonna have him. So I'll have him for future videos. I just don't have him here with me, and so that is why I'm wearing this suit. If you follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you know that this is my Sparkle Dog character, Spectre. I completed him and wore him to MFF, which is one reason I'm sad the vlog footage got lost, because a lot of it was of him, and I wanted to show him wearing around. He has a full suit, I'm not wearing it because I'm tired. But yeah, this is the suit I have to record with now, because I don't have any other fursuit with me. Haha. So those are the 3 things I wanted to address: my lack of videos, how MFF was, and the reason I'm not in my Fox suit. And with that all said and done, it is time to start the video officially, I guess. Yay! So today's topic was brought to my attention by a user who commented about wanting a video on this subject. Thank you to HEYOOOO. It's actually something I never thought about talking about, but when I read the comment, the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, that's not something that's really addressed a lot, so yeah, I would enjoy going over it. And that is how to work with small markings, or deal with them, or like wrestle them, or whatever you want to do. In this video, I'll be giving you 4 different tips for handling small markings, how to put them in right, how to make them look good, and all that jazz. I'll say though before the video that when I say small marking, I generally mean anything that's probably like the size of your palm or smaller. Nothing that's like your hand size, or like a big heart on your chest, or like tiger stripes or whatever, because those are big markings and they can be handled in like a machine or in other ways that I'm not going to be talking about in this vid for small markings. So keep that in mind. Probably like the size of your palm, like the smallest I'd go is like your thumbnail maybe. It's up to you. But yeah, small tiny markings only, no like big tiger stripes. So the first tip on this list is going to be hand sew your small markings. I know it's tedious, it takes a lot of time, it can be frustrating sometimes, but believe me, you're going to get a better result in the end. Sewing machines will always eat markings and always eat fabric. It's just how it is. Even if you have the best machine in the world, it's going to eat fabric. That's why people put in seam allowance for that very thing, because they know it eats up fabric. So even if you think you have the world's greatest machine, trust me, it's still gonna murder your markings just a little bit. So I highly suggest always hand sewing them. You're going to get a much clearer result. Hand sewing also allows for the ability to get into like tiny corners and do really funky shapes. Sometimes a machine can maybe sew like a heart, but it can't sew like that weird snake you have going all the way up your fursuit. So it's just easier to hand sew. It lets you have more precision. It allows the marking to shine clearer, and it's honestly just the better way to do it, in my opinion. Tip number two, this ties directly into the last tip, and that is always seal your sewing. Now, what I mean by that is after you've sewn in your small marking, seal it. You know, like make sure it's sturdy. And what do I mean by sealing? Hot glue. Mostly hot glue will, you know, do the job after you've sewn it in. Make sure to hot glue over the seam to make sure it stays exactly where it should be. And here's something that I do, if you would like. Once you hot glue it, take a piece of fabric. I generally use like Lycra or anything like lightweight and water resistant, and I just put it over the glue and kind of push it down. So now you have double sealing. You have the hot glue that's sealing in the initial stitch, and you have the fabric that is pushing down on the glue to not only make it smooth, so it's not like sticking up at you, but it seals the hot glue in. So wow, double sealing, yay! I highly suggest sealing your hand stitching when you can, especially with small markings, because if you have a bunch of small little dots on your suit and you are hand sewing them all in, especially close together, every time you cut into the fabric, it weakens it. So if you're sewing in all these markings and you're continuously cutting into the fabric, chances are without sealing them, you're going to start getting holes, and you're going to get them fast. So I always suggest sealing your seams, especially on smaller markings. You should honestly seal your seams on bigger markings too, but if they are really small and they're really close together, sealing it will only do you good. Tip number 3, and that is going to be shave your markings before you sew them into each other. Now this is going to depend kind of where your markings are going on your fursuit. So for the sake of this part of the tip, we're going to be talking about the fact that your markings are like going on your face, a place that is close shaved. So say you have a little like blue triangle and you have a red triangle going into it. Well, you can just sew those into each other, but if you go over and shave it, chances are you're still gonna have to go back with it later with scissors and like clean it up. So why not just shave it off the get-go and get the better result flat out? You still might have to trim it up a little bit, but you won't have to do as much trimming as you would is if you shave them together. So I always suggest making sure that your furs are the exact length you want them before you start sewing them into each other. Now, if the marking is going on the body, which generally has the longer fur, and you're not even going to be shaving them, then yeah, you can just sew them in. But if you want those markings, especially the smaller ones, to really shine, you might want to go back into that long fur and trim it up a bit. As you can see, Spectre's got a star, I think. I can't see on my camera, and who knows what their character looks like. He's got a marking on his cowl here. And what I did is I sewed it in, but I went back in with scissors and I trimmed it up to make sure you can actually see what shape it is, and not that it's just a white blob on pink. So that's my advice for when you're putting small markings into long fur or when you're sewing them on top of each other. Always make sure that they can shine and do their thing. Okay, last tip. This might be the one that people don't want to hear, and that is there is too small. Now, I don't mean to say this in a discouraging way. I mean to say this in a like purely technical way. You should know the limits of your materials and what they can and can't handle. There are such things as too small markings, and I'm talking like if you draw your character, it's like 2 pixels on your computer screen. Like that's kind of small. So there are two things you can do to handle this. The first thing, which is actually my preferred option, is compromise your design. A lot of people don't like doing that, but I'm also not talking about, you know, huge compromising. I'm talking about the fact that if your character like has freckles across their nose, you don't have to do super little tiny dots. You can probably do like 6 or 7 like, you know, medium-sized dots, and you're still going to get the effect that that character has spots going across its face. Your character is not really going to suffer from these tiny compromises to help you with your sanity when you're making them. Trust me, as you can see from this guy, every fursuit I've ever made personally has been compromised in design. Sure, I would love to have all those tiny details, but I don't think my suits are any lesser because of it. At least I like to think they aren't. So I highly suggest that if you have, you know, that 20th dot that really doesn't need to be there, leave it out. It will help you in the long run and your character will still look great. The other thing you can do, that if you are somebody who does not like to compromise on your design and you want everything as it is, which is totally fine, airbrushing is going to be your go-to. Airbrushing is really good for getting in those super tiny details, especially things like, you know, whisker spots and like super tiny details around the eyes. I have never really like properly airbrushed, so I'm not going to sit here and say this is how you do it. What I will say is go to Google, type in Fursuit airbrushing tutorial. I'm sure you'll get results and I'm sure they'll lead you on the right path. So if you really want to get every single detail, I highly suggest trying airbrushing. You can airbrush the body too. I've seen makers do it. It's kind of tedious and, you know, it takes a while, but it is possible. So I suggest looking into that if that is what you want to do. Alright, that is it for this video, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I was able to help out with those tips, and I wish you the best of luck in your tiny marking ventures. As I've said in the past few videos, I now finally have my full Japan vlog trip ready to upload, so I'm going to be uploading that soon, and it's going to come like in a week's burst. Like, they're going to come pretty close together. So if you want to see a vlog, albeit not a furry one, that is coming up. If you don't care for something like that, just ignore it. It's fine. You don't have to watch it, whatever. But yeah, that's it for this video. As always, comment below on what you would like to see in future vids, what you'd like me to talk about, and I will do my best to get to those topics down the line. So with that, I am signing out. Happy holidays currently, everyone. I know it's like the middle of December, but holidays everywhere, yay! So I will see you next time. Bye!